name is Ralf Friedrichs. I'm an addiction recovery coach, a life coach, and the host of this show, the Take Your Life Back Today show. Alcoholism in the family. How does family get affected by alcoholism? Alcoholism has two features which make it a uniquely family related issue and concern. In the first place, it appears alcoholism has a strong genetic component and susceptibility can be passed down through the generations. Secondly, alcoholism affects the family first and perhaps the most of all relationships. Alcoholism is a family problem, not just an individual problem. Evidence shows that a family history of alcoholism is a risk factor. The Mayo Clinic has found that persons with an alcoholic parent are much more likely to develop a dependency on alcohol themselves. Acknowledging an increased risk like this early in life can help stem potential problems with alcohol later in life. Researcher scientists at a molecular neurobiology branch of the National Institute on Drug Abuse carried out a comprehensive analysis of human genes. The study was conducted in 2006 and was first ever to consider how alcoholism and genes correlate with each other. It has been a well established fact that alcoholism runs in families, but linking alcoholism to specific genetic factors is promising for developing future treatments. However, finding a link between genes and alcoholism does not mean that addiction is inevitable for those with a genetic predisposition. Addictive genes indicate a higher risk for developing alcoholism, but this can actually help a person avoid succumbing to alcoholism later in life. Likewise, knowing that their dependence on alcohol is due at least in part of genetics can give some alcoholics hope. Alcohol addiction absolutely affects the family. Alcoholism can also ruin the lives of family members. Alcoholics have difficulty taking an objective view on life, and they may not realize that they are acting in an unfair or even sometimes an abusive manner. This is sobering considering the fact that 1 out of 4 children in the U.S. are in a regular contact with a person who abuses alcohol on a daily basis, most of them in their own home. Alcoholism is destructive to those closest to the alcoholic and affects families in several different ways. Many times, rehab an alcoholic is only one part of the process of healing a home. Family members may also need support and counseling from an outside source. Alcoholic families suffer from a range of problems. Spouses can live in constant conflict. Children may develop low self esteem, loneliness, and fear of abandonment. Infants may even be born with lifelong birth defects. When support is not sought out, the results can be so severe that it will affect the future of the individuals. Alcohol abuse can lead to many family problems. These are just a few of the most prominent problems that are listed in my video. Conflict between spouses, infidelity, domestic violence, economic hardships, isolation, or even divorce, jealousy, and fetal alcohol syndrome. The process of coping with an alcoholic in the family has certain criteria and steps. When there is an alcoholic in the house, family members usually go through a progression of stages. Loved ones end up following the alcoholic in a downward spiral of loss. The progression can be divided into 4 general phases, and these phases are as follows. Concern stage. At this stage, family members are genuinely concerned about the increasingly self-destructive behavior of the alcoholic in their home. This happens relatively early on, and most loved ones do not realize how much worse the situation is likely to become. The second stage is defense stage. Folks, as the struggle with the alcoholism becomes more pronounced, family members are likely to ignore or even deny the reality of the situation. Family members may become protective of their alcoholic, going so far as to defend or justify their actions. They become tolerant of the alcoholic's behavior and may even feel they are partially to blame for it. Adoption phase. During the adoption phase, family members try to modify their behavior in order to compensate for the way the alcoholic is acting. This can be a dark time for the household, the complete household. Others in the family may turn to drugs or alcohol themselves as a means of coping or identifying with the alcoholic present in their home. Since alcoholism has a genetic component, these family members may actually be beginning their own journey to dependency. And other loved ones may try to transform themselves into an ideal family member. They set impossible standards for their own behavior in hopes of inspiring the alcoholic to change. Of course, this strategy is destined to fail, and the last phase is the exhaustion phase. In the final phase, relatives of alcoholics become completely exhausted. They lose touch with their own self-worth and slump into severe bouts of depression or anxiety. At this point, their own enabling behavior may have taken an addictive quality. In this case, seeking help and counseling is just as important for family members as it is for the person with addiction. Folks, support for families of alcoholics. Remember that, support for families of alcoholics. When an alcoholic in the house has created an unhealthy cycle of denial, adaptation, and exhaustion, family members may feel like there is no way out. However, support groups and counseling services do exist for families affected by alcoholism. A good place to find resources related to family services is through an alcohol rehab center in your community, depending on where you are. It is easy for those affected by the behavior of an alcoholic to become caught up in trying to help the person overcome their addiction. This happens at the expense of their own recovery. With this in mind, my friends, it is so important for loved ones to acknowledge that the alcoholic in their life cannot be forced into recovery. This will only happen when the alcoholic is ready to acknowledge that their problem and the effect that it has on those that love them and he or she is ready to commit and stop denying. In the meantime, family members can begin their own process of recovery. Enrolling in a support group can help the children and spouse of an alcoholic maintain their own sanity and well-being, and it can also stem the chances of new chemical dependency being developed at home. This sort of support is just as important to the family as the rehab of the alcoholic in the family. Folks, call me at 844-405-HELP. Together we can help each other take our lives back. I have a lot of experience with this because I have gone through all of it. Be good to yourselves, but more important, be good to others. Remember, a simple smile to a total stranger can change that life of that stranger, including yours. May God bless you. May God bless this great country of America. And goodbye. And if you have someone in your family that has issues with alcoholism or drug addiction, reach out for help immediately, because you can change what's going on.